Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about this upcoming major pattern change that will be producing a shot of very cold air for the good portion of the northern and kind of eastern United States. This will be taking shape into late next week, so most likely into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it will be kind of continuing into certain portions of the United States, well into the week after this upcoming week. So pretty long duration event, though certain areas will be cleared out quicker in terms of its this pattern change's impacts. And again, the main impacts of this is quite a bit of chilly weather, frost, freezes for many of the first ones of the season. So that's obviously the ones that are usually the most impactful. So I kind of want to warn you guys about that, tell you, let you know about that, and also a potential snowstorm across southern Canada, southern central Canada, and potentially lake effect. That could be also snow, lake effect snow across the Great Lakes. So snow and cold on its way. Again, definitely early for certain areas, though nothing extraordinary. Though it's obviously cool because we've been seeing a lot of warm weather and minimal cool blasts. There have been a decent bit more than in previous years, but overall still it has been a warmer fall on average, especially the further west and north you go. So yeah, the next several days you can see, starting to look at the GFS model, you can see nothing really extraordinary going on. We do obviously have the remnants of Ian that will be kind of slashing into portions of the northeast. There will be some coastal flooding, probably because of the winds, also the rain. But what we're really looking at is across the western United States, we have quite a bit of showers and storms brewing, right? And this will be the pattern throughout this upcoming, even this next several days, right? It's already ongoing, and this will kind of continue to do its thing, and it will pretty much sit there, not really doing anything until we see it move out into the plains, right? And here it interacts with a cold front, or just a front that is moving across southern Canada. And what this does is that it interacts with this and creates you could see a pretty powerful storm system. Now, obviously, there's a lot of precipitation that is exploding. You can see some pretty heavy snowfall rates, again, pretty far south, almost into the United States. Cities like Thunder Bay on the northern side of Lake Superior will definitely be picking up some inches of snow out of this. And basically what this low pressure does is that it takes this cold front and kind of takes it much further south than it normally would have, and you can see it kind of angles itself. Again, snow, you could even argue there could be some localized blizzard conditions with some pretty strong winds there. And you can see this thing doesn't bring snow into, or at least heavy snow into, our viewing area, which for those that don't know, it's just really the whole entire United States and southern Canada. I just talk about the whole country and southern Canada. Yeah, nothing really extraordinary for those areas. So you can see even cities like Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, you won't be picking up any snow out of that most likely. But you can see that there's going to be some lake effect showers, some lake effect snow, definitely the first flakes of the season flying for the UP, maybe northern Michigan, maybe some portions of Canada as well, some grapple. But again, the bigger story with this will be the chilly air that kind of is left behind this. And for a lot of areas, this will be a very chilly air blast. And you can see that it kind of, again, the other thing is that this sticks around for a while. You can see another little blast of cool air surges through the northeast. The Midwest will be pretty impacted by this in terms of the cool weather. Though again, the western United States, you'll be warm, so you'll be kind of completely opposite of what's going on here across the Midwest. So let's take a look at the total, the 2 meter temperature anomaly. So this shows us how above or below average a temperature is forecasted to be at any given time, and this will really help you visualize how really chilly some of these temperatures will be and how this kind of will play out. Again, it will be warm prior to this, excluding maybe the southeast where we have that cloud cover from the Ian and its remnants. But notice that by Thursday we start seeing this pretty nice cool air blast moving into the northern United States. This thing continues at a kind of south and southeastward direction, and you can see that it affects a lot of areas. It's not just limited to the north. It's a lot of the plains for at least a few days, or at least a day, that will again kind of whip away from these areas quicker. But again, the Great Lakes in northeast and southeastern Canada will be the most impacted by this for a prolonged period of time. They'll notice that it even affects portions of the southeast with at least closer to normal temperatures, and in many areas you can see even Tennessee, North Carolina just being downright chilly, and you can see that this kind of resurges. Again, it's stubborn, but as I mentioned, the west and especially northwestern United States, southwestern Canada, you will be pretty warm during this time frame. So it's kind of going to be the opposite, where temperatures go down, they must go up. It's kind of like the rule basically, and you can see that this actually settles pretty far to the south. So let's go here and take a look at some of these 2-meter temperature shaded. You can see that during the night, I mean, there could be some frost potentially, Tennessee, and some very crisp, chilly nights across the northern south, 40s in Alabama, Birmingham, Atlanta. And you could see that even the daytime temperatures aren't going to be too awfully warm. Obviously, as I mentioned, this will move away and probably give way to warmer conditions. After that, this is kind of a bit too far out to be making any forecasts. I do think there will be at least a period of warmer weather. The European model potentially shows another cool down occurring. The GFS doesn't, so at that point the models kind of diverge. So again, we have been dealing with a little bit of cool air. You can see that was a little previous cool down that we have, partially to do with Hurricane Ian, but also with a little bit of cooler that filtered in. Again, a little bit of a rebound this week in terms of the warm temperatures, but then we see that bigger cool down. And just to show you, many areas, pretty much other than Wisconsin and Minnesota and extreme portions of northern Iowa, haven't really seen a frost this year. So this one will be the first for many, and you can see a lot of areas getting really close to that boundary right there, lower 30s, maybe even upper 20s for obviously southern Canada and areas northward. You can see, that's the end of the growing season for many. So if you're a gardener, I know a lot of people have gardens. That's gonna be pretty crucial to know about that, and whether or not you have any plants. And you can see getting close to even the bigger cities. Not quite New York City, you could see staying in the 40s, but definitely chilly. Definitely something probably that you haven't seen so far this season. European model, another good model, right? It's a lot of people prefer the European model over the GFS model, and it relatively shows very similar occurrence. So again, warmer air moving in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it starts across southern Canada, so Manitoba, Saskatchewan, onto Wednesday night and into Thursday, and then moves into more of the United States into Thursday and into Friday. And then you can see that kind of spreads further and further south. Within a few days, it's really across much of the eastern United States, west of the Rockies. The European probably even more expansive than the GFS with that cool air, and you can see that it takes out some of this warmer air or cooler air a bit quicker than what the GFS does, the European, and you can see moves in more warmer air. But let's see, I want to go back and show you some of these, actual temperature readings, not just the anomalies. So this is what the thermometer will be reading. You can see, let me just play this very slowly. Here's a time slot, 7 p.m. October 6th. So this is 4 p.m. Thursday. You can see it's still relatively warm across the Northeast and the Midwest, but then upper plains, it's starting to cool down. The Canadian prairies are very cool. You can see frost during the night, and then you can see this is 1 a.m. So this is now 4 a.m. Friday. I'm just going to play through this slowly, find your location on the map, and kind of just track through this. Indiana, you can see Ohio getting pretty chilly, all the way down into the Ozarks. So we're going to have pretty, maybe even frosty weather. So that is that, and you can see that the European moves that colder out a bit quicker than what the GFS was doing. The GFS hangs this stuff around here for quite a while. So let's take a look at the ensembles. These are many models combined. It gives us a good look at what the general model thinking is, and instead of just picking individual models and comparing them, it kind of does that work for us. So you can see, again, pretty warm up until this upcoming cool blast. Again, will be cooler across the southeast because of all the cloud cover from Ian and its remnants and the showery activity. But then look, we do have a very, again, the blast of cool air. The ensembles are showing this, so that means that the confidence and agreement among the models is relatively strong. It's relatively they're relatively confident in that. And do note that the GFS models do tend to keep that cooler air around for a bit longer, but eventually, yes, the warm air does move in. How long this warm air sticks around before we see another cool blast or a kind of a pattern change, that remains a question that kind of can't really be answered at this point. Let's take a look at the European ensemble. So the same thing as a GFS ensembles, but this time from a different family. And you can see that they do show that warm air. They do show that cool down, and they do bring it out pretty quickly. And you can see that in the long run, again, they're favoring a warmer pattern. Whether or not that will be the case, it remains to be seen. It's a bit too far out to be making those predictions. Notice 6 to 10 day outlook from the Storm or Climate Prediction Center. It's a great agency, has a lot of accuracy with its forecast, and they update these things daily, even on the weekends, 7 days a week, holidays included. So notice the west will be warm, and on the other hand, a lot of the eastern United States will be cool, and this is between 7th and 11th of October. And you can see precipitation-wise, relatively dry, and excluding the southwest, which this is actually good news. They need that rain there. And 8 to 14 days, you can see that, again, that cool air starts getting pushed out. We see the warm air becoming more expansive. That seems very reasonable. I agree with that forecast. And relatively dry precipitation-wise. That's the other thing. I'm going to be focusing about this, talking about this this pattern change a lot more than maybe I normally would, because relatively there isn't going to be that many storms ongoing. There's going to be little disturbances maybe, right? Again, a lot of moisture across the southwest. That's one area that will be active. And obviously that snowstorm across southern Canada and the lake effect. But those are pretty localized events. You can see it's relatively dry. There's no big system. One does potentially move in towards, I guess the 250-hour range in a GFS. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't be too surprised. And you can see they start showing some more activity later on. But for now, nothing too particular. European model, let's go back to the new model run, also showing really nothing too extraordinary in terms of activity, other than maybe Southwest again being active, and then that storm with that cold blast. And other than that, it remains kind of quiet. Do note that the European towards the 240 timeline shows a kind of I guess like a spearhead of cooler air potentially moving into the United States. GFS does not show that, so we'll have to wait and see whether or not actually pans out and what the European is trying to show us through that. If we were to take a look at North America, I'm assuming it's to do with a pretty big system that's moving in. Yeah, so this may be another cool blast, may not be. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to show you. I could show you a high-res model. They only go out to 84 hours, but they are, a bit more accurate. And yeah, this only takes us through Wednesday, so it's still not far out enough to show you that cool air that will be occurring. I could show you the Canadian. This is a decent model. I don't really like it for temperatures, but it's still a decent model to look at. So let's zoom through this again. You can see some decently cooler weather. It not necessarily will be warm for a good portion of the south and east this week. Even the southwest with that activity from the precipitation. Well, the northern United States, southern Canada, and northwestern United States and southwestern Canada will definitely be warmer out ahead of that cool down. Then that cool down brings a lot of relief. The Canadian really does show some pretty strong anomalies. It's probably a bit overdone. You can see that some of this would be resulting in very, very cold temperatures. Probably some that are 24 degrees, and that's just a little bit too much. I wouldn't be surprised to see some 20s across Wisconsin, in northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, which the GFS and European aren't showing, because they often underdo some of these temperature readings. The National Weather Service will provide you with the most accurate ones. A few days out, that's always your best source. But yeah, the Canadian showing, it's 20s there. It seems it's very unlikely, this far south. Though, if you live in this area, I do expect you will see some, at least 34, 35. But, getting to the 20s is 29, 28. That's a hard freeze. That usually takes a bit longer. And honestly, this cool blast, it's going to be impressive, but I don't think it will be to that extent. And again, you can see showing that system, showing that snowstorm, and it does bring a bit of lake effect, but it moves out relatively quickly, more in line with what the European was showing. And then it, similarly enough, compared to the European, does show a potential another blast of cooler air moving in, but out ahead of you can see how all these millibars are very diagonal and very tightly packed. That is indicating some very warm air moving in out ahead of that. So we'll have to wait and see. And this may not look impressive, but that's because, think about it, if the air stays at 40 degrees and it's across southern Canada, 40 degrees across these areas isn't necessarily that below average, but if it stays that cool, 40 degrees moves into Dakotas, Minneapolis, these colors start deepening because, well, it's a bigger of an anomaly across areas that typically see warmer weather. So that's kind of how a lot of this stuff works. That's why initially this may not seem impressive, but as it moves down further and further south, it will. So we'll have to wait and see. But regarding what happens after this cool down, I'm strongly favoring a warm up. For how long, I don't know, but at least one for a good portion of the country. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of activity, storms, nothing in particular, nothing really noteworthy. As you can see, a lot of these forecasts are keeping everything dry, excluding the southwest. which is going to be our main area of activity. The 84-hour outlook from the NAM model shows the most amount of precipitation falling within this time frame across the southwestern United States and really western, and of course where the remnants are. And this isn't also, bad news. This is good. They need that snow, and this will be actually falling as snow across some areas as the mountains are getting cold at this point. You can see right there, maybe even more expansive than that. All right, that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya.